So right now I'm getting lunch. I'm in the mood for some Chipotle. So I was having a discussion with a 71-year-old patient, and he was asking me, just shit about myself. Asked me how old I was. When I told him how old I was, he was blown away. He was like, "Man, you look like you're in your 20s." I said, "Yeah, I know. I get that all the time." He was like, "Man, what you taking, man? What you taking?" I'm like, "Nothing. I just work out every day. That's it. I just make it a habit." He's like, "Man." He was like, "Man, what you?" I was like, "Multivitamin, some whey protein, which I haven't bought in a while from freaking Walmart, and using lotion every day." I don't know what you want me to say. But anyway, we got to talking about, you get married, you got kids. I was like, nah, not married, no kids. And, I was telling him about I was like, look, man, we started talking about the community. And, I told him just straight up. I was like, man, like your generations, y'all experience some different stuff. Like 90% of the black community was, intact. Because, right, if he's 71, then that means he was born in, 1951, right? So, I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, you guys grew up in a community where there were way more intact homes, and so I was like, I can't throw a rock without hitting a single mother. We got into talking about, dudes jumping the fence and all this other stuff. And damn, what was the thing that kind of like I had a revelation about? Because when we got to talking about the single mothers, he gave me a lot of pushback. He was like, "Oh, well, you can't really fight who you love." Right? That's what he said. Fight who you love. And I'm like, he might be an individual that's in that type of situation, but I noticed, like, barbershop talk, I come across a lot of older black men that have this sort of mentality, like, hey, go out there and get with, single mothers. It is not a big deal. It's like, it's so normalized with them. I'm like, when were you doing this? In the 80s? Like, when were you doing this? In the 70s? Like, when was this shit just so normal? And then it just kind of hit me. Because, like, notice how, right, we have today's conversation about the gender war and black men today, and, say no to single mothers, no ma'am, and all that stuff, right? This is what today's black men are, especially guys that don't have any kids. We've already seen our fathers go through it, our grandfathers go through it, the black men that came before us. They did all the stepdaddy shit. They done tapped out stepdaddying in the black community. They done tapped it out. And you know what really, like, hit me? I was like, how come they never talk about those men? There's so much talk about the deadbeat dads and Ray Ray and Pookie, right? Like, that's the reputation of black men, is this, and these niggas is deadbeat dads all over the place, but they don't never talk about the stepfathers. And I want you to really think about that when we, these women that try to, like, sell you the idea that stepfathers are deserving of praise and all. How come they don't get that praise? How come the reputation of black men is more Ray Ray and Pookie and Dusty's not taking care of their kids? It's all y'all want to talk about, when the reality is, for so long in the black community, truth be told, damn near all these women could actually go out there and find somebody to be with and play stepdaddy. With the generations that came before me, all these niggas playing stepdaddy. Cap Solo's mother married 3 times. 3 times she married. So I'm like, how come that's not the, how come black men don't got the reputation of being the most stepdaddy and motherfuckers out here? It's just deadbeat dads. I mean, talk about how being a stepfather is such a thankless position. This is all the crap that the women talk about, shaming men into, oh, y'all need to, yeah. All that shit y'all talk. Right? But you actually have men out here doing it. Every time I talk to an old black man, every time I talk to one and I start talking about, I don't want a single mother, I don't have any kids, I don't want a single mother, these old niggas always give some sort of pushback. And I shouldn't say old niggas because he was pretty cool, but I'm just saying, these old black men always giving pushback on I'm not looking for a ready-made family. And I'm like, why is that? What is the cultural thing? You can't help a woman that you love. Like, what are you encouraging younger men to walk into a thankless situation? And I told him straight up, I was like, my generation ain't going for it. My generation and below are not going for it. We just not doing it. You can say what you want about it. We're not doing. There's no benefit to that. Why should we raise, the seed of the unproductive men? Why should we do that? And when I started laying the shit out, he really had nowhere to go. He's like, damn, I never thought about it like that. I'm like, we're not interchangeable. Men are not interchangeable. Fathers are not and should not be interchangeable like shoes. It just didn't work. Again, 80% of divorces are initiated by women. And then you got the women that are just sexually irresponsible out here, busting it wide open for whoever, right? And they have some dude's baby. And for the rest of her life, even if she got a man, even if she has a man in her life, even if she's in a relationship, got some dude playing stepdaddy, the narrative will be more about the deadbeat dad, the biological father, than it will be about the good man who stepped up to the plate. It'll be more about that. Just crazy shit. There's women right now talking crazy online about black men raised by a stepdaddy. And they online making posts talking about dusty niggas and niggas ain't shit and all this other crap. I'm like, in other words, again, if there's been just as many stepdaddies as there have been Ray Rays and Pookies and deadbeat dad fathers and whatnot. No, let me make that clear. If there's been as many stepdaddies as deadbeat dads, then why don't we see that sort of parallel? How come we don't see the equal distribution of that? Well, there's just as many men that'll take on a single mother as there are men who are deadbeat dads. See, I think right now, the whole conversation is always the hyper focus on black men are deadbeats and all that other shit, because you have today's black men saying, no, ma'am, no, thank you. No, ma'am, I will not be engaging in that situation. No, thank you. And so, they have no choice but to dig in the ass of, the deadbeat dad, and then try to, throw that at men that don't even have kids with. I mean, if you listen to these women, a lot of times they try to make the childless man that doesn't want to date a single mother, they try to make him out to be just as bad as the man that actually got them pregnant and actually left them with a child. They try to make them just as bad. I've gotten into arguments with women and had to remind them, I'm like, hey, chick, you need to check your tone, because I ain't run up in you. I didn't run up in you raw. You need to check the way that you're speaking to me, because I'm not the one that did this to you, and I'm not the type of motherfucker who would do this to you. Because I don't believe in shit going down like that any goddamn way. But I mean, he really made me realize that shit. Just talking to the old man. I'm like, man, why do y'all keep saying that? Every time a young man says, I'm not looking for some ready-made family, y'all act like there's like some shortage of pussy out here or some shit. You know what I mean? Like y'all so starved that you're willing to put up with a single mother, as opposed to going out here and getting what the hell you want and not having to deal with another man's drama and another man's bullshit. I mean, just always make it just, oh man, I mean, she looks good. I mean, she got a baby or two, but I mean, she looks good. I just gots to have it. Nigga, I ain't that goddamn thirsty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just no, I will go over the fence before I deal with that bullshit. No, absolutely not. It just like I don't know, like, what are we, the only generation that thinks? Are we the only generation with a brain? You know what I mean? Like, everybody else just is like settles into bullshit and then tries to go out here and then tell everybody else that this bullshit right here, you know, if you hold your nose, it doesn't taste like shit. Like, literally, that's like what they sound like. You know, just hold your breath. You know, and it won't taste like shit when it goes down. No fucking thank you, sir. I'm good. You know? And then here comes the women. Well, then you can die alone. Okay, well, then I'll die alone then, chick. No, I'm not walking in to that freaking, you know, a radioactive situation, that toxic situation, that thankless situation. And you can't say it's not thankless because it's again reinforced just by the fact that when you look at the reputation of that black men have, does the reputation revolve around stepdaddies? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's been stepdaddies galore. It's been tons of black men out here taking care of kids that are not theirs. But yet, the fussing, the complaining, the bitching, you know what I mean? The roar of it, you know, totally overshadows the praise of the actual men that women love to say are stepping up to the plate. He's a real man. He's stepping up to the plate. You know, that's what these women like to really stepping up to the plate. I'm like, yeah, I mean, in other words, your boos for Ray Ray and Pookie are louder than your roars for the man that's actually currently stepping up to the plate. That says a lot. It says a lot about how they really feel about these guys. You know, and I think because the reality is these guys are not the men that they actually wanted. They're the men that, you know, again, they're the men that they settled for. And not even realizing that even the man that they don't want or didn't want, he settled for her. Because, like, again, the audacity of believing that this man would have preferred you with the child that you currently have than actually wish he had met you before you had the kid. And the real ugly part is a lot of these women, if they were still childless, they wouldn't deal with that dude because he's not what they wanted. He's the man that they need. He's not the man that they wanted. He's the man that they need now because they have this situation. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, just thinking about that, it's like, God damn, man. That's why they don't talk about you. They talk about you. They talk about the man that they actually wanted. They're mad at him. They're obsessed with him. Even Captain Solo's even Captain Solo's half sister, even she said it. She said, I don't think that Mama ever got over, you know, again, her father, who was the one that you know, she was like, no, what did she say? No wedding, no visitation rights. And then his response was, well, out of sight, out of mind. You know, which is fucked up on both of their parts, because here you have this human being, this daughter that's coming into the world, and here you have these uncompromising parents. Like, y'all should have thought about that before you laid up with each other. The fuck is wrong with y'all? You know, but, you know, she said, you know, Cap's sister said, you know, yeah, nah, I don't think that she ever got over him. because he was remember, this is the man that she tried to trap with a baby. And Captain Solo's biological father, in the beginning of the marriage, he had a little drinking problem, and, he tried to get her back, and she didn't want him back, and he that messed him up. He shut down after that. He was like, no woman's ever gonna, hurt me again. And then he moved in with his sisters and lived on their couch, for, the rest of his life. Their pull-out futon couch, which is one of the reasons why Cap was so, just pissed off at the shit. He gets it, but at the same time, like, motherfucker, you got a son out there, man. You can't just shut down. But see, this goes to the whole aspect of, you got a lot of men out here, if they can't have the woman, they don't want the kids. They want the woman more than they want the kids. And if they can't have the woman, they're like, man, fuck them kids. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's the mentality. We've seen enough examples of it, so I can't sit up in here and pretend like it's not a thing. But I just talking to the old man, I was just like sitting there. I'm like, man, why do y'all keep saying that shit? And you start pattern recognition. I'm like, every time I talk to these old dudes, they always talk from this, like a man wanting to be with a woman that doesn't have any kids is somehow too idealistic or something like that. Like you need to settle in to the reality that ain't nothing out here but single mothers. Quiet as is kept. That's one of the main reasons my father, married my mother. He was like, shit, she ain't got no kids. My dad was on it. She ain't got no kids. Shit. But it's like, and I'm not gonna lie, like, has that shit come across my mind? Yeah. The older you get, when you see a woman, it's like, let me look at her. Okay, she looks good. She got clear skin, nice smile. Okay, she could, maybe she could tighten up a little bit, but we can work on that. We can work. I can do something with this. Oh, she ain't got no kids. I'm like, I could do something with this. I'm telling you, if you stay on the market long enough and you start getting older, you will start looking at the shit. But I start with the no kids thing. He's like, man, she ain't got no kids, man. Maybe we can work something out. You think I'm bullshitting? No, that is facts, my nigga. Like, that is facts. I'm telling you. You start looking at him like, man, she got bad breath, but we could see a dentist about that, halitosis, that we can fix that, oh man, she don't know how to walk in heels, man. She ain't gotta wear heels all the time. Like, you just start coming up with every excuse in the book. It's hilarious. But I just wanted to, I had to share the story with y'all, but I was just thinking, I was like, every time I talk to these older guys, it's like they've all been, like, all these black men that are like, they're in their twilight years, all of them have been with more than one single mother. All of them have played the stepdaddy role at some point in their life. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, how come this isn't black men's reputation? Because every time I talk to y'all baby boomers, y'all keep talking about, trying to sell young men, she had kids, but she a good woman, right? She got the sweet twinkle of white Jesus in her eye, right? Like that somehow makes up for it. And it's like, nah, like, I'm sorry, but us young men, we look at y'all like y'all some sucker ass niggas that were desperate and thirsty, for any old pussy that you went out there and you got with some woman that just, it's like, for real, just so you could get your balls licked every so often. Knowing damn well that the children that are not yours are the priority. Then you got to deal with the headache of the dad coming through. You putting hands on my children, all that crap. You got to deal with all that stuff. You putting money and investing in children that are not yours. You know what I mean? And then just like Danikia talked about, her dad, she was raised by her stepmother, and her dad divorced the stepmother, and the stepmother, she was investing in the children, you know, spending money on them to go to college and all that other stuff. And she was like, you know, looking back at it, she was like, she got a raw deal. She's saying this about her own stepmother. She's like, she got a raw deal. She did all this investing in us. And yeah, we still talk to her, but like, when you know, my father's not with her anymore. So like, what did she really get out of it? She didn't get anything out of it. You know, and when you hear a woman say that about their own stepmother, like, you already know black men don't get shit out of it. But these women keep coming online talking crazy like we getting shit out of it. And honestly, I know that what I'm saying, even though I didn't go through it, like what I'm saying, there's a lot of older men that feel what I'm saying, but you know, unlike us, they don't have the courage or whatever you want to call it to really speak up on the shit. We don't give a fuck. My generation don't give a fuck, and the generation below me even gives less of a fuck. Like Paul Mooney said, yeah, you tell our grandkids to go to the back of the bus. There won't be a bus. There won't be a bus. You know, so, you know, a lot of y'all on that polite society, you know, oh, you don't talk to your elders in such and such a way, da-da-da-da-da. But it shit fell apart. Y'all did all that polite society bullshit, and the black community still fucking collapsed. The shit is still broken. You know what I mean? So us using the profanity and the filth, flaring filth, as Bill Cosby would say, us saying all that shit, we don't give a fuck. Cause like shit, it doesn't matter. That's just how we feel about it. We speak our mind. And maybe, just maybe us speaking our mind will turn some of this shit around. You know, because you have more black men that are willing to stand up and say no. Like the Grinch said, you know what I'm saying? Mean what you say, what you mean, and mean what you say. You know what I'm saying? Stand on your square. Now we ain't going for that shit. I don't care what the previous generation went for. We ain't going for that shit. We dealing with a new age of bitches that think that this shit is normal and that they can just swap out men like goddamn shoes and shit. Fuck that. We ain't playing that game no more. But anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out. I was running my thoughts by Captain, so I'm a little bit calmed down now. I was running my thoughts about the whole thankless job of being a stepdad. I was running my thoughts by Cap. And he was, you know, talking about some shit. And right in the middle of him laying out some stuff, it hit me. What the main difference, you know, between today's generation and the generation of the past, and that, you know, 71-year-old man telling me about, you know, you can't help who you love. First thing is that really highlights just how much the boomers were not focused on legacies or generational wealth. Oh, you know, they were out here marrying for love. They were not out here marrying for purposes of legacies and generational wealth. That's just one component. But I'm gonna tell you what the big component is, and why I say men like myself, you know, have such resentment for a lot of these black single mother situations. The main reason we have resentment for these black mother single situations is because you gotta take on the full load with today's generation. You know, back in, let's just say it was like 1968. You know, if a man came across a woman and, you know, she divorced her husband, whether he had kids or not, and a lot of the times, some of these stepdads had kids themselves. We got to factor that one in. But whether he had kids or not, the man that the man that the woman got with, or had the biological children with, was gainfully employed. So when you were coming in as the stepdad, you weren't necessarily carrying the entire load. You know, he was gainfully employed. You know, the you know, the biological father of her children had full medical and dental. You know, you weren't
the one that was responsible for all of the well-being of the children. Where today, in 2020, there's a lot of situations, far too many, where these women are single mothers, and because they went out here and they got with a guy who's not gainfully employed, any guy who deals with her has to deal with the entire load. Hence all the phrases about, the deadbeat dads, and these guys are deadbeats. Well, a lot of these women chose to be with deadbeats. And any guy who walks into that situation, it's not like, you walk in, to some situation and it's like, hey, Mr. Johnson, hey, Mr. Thomas, and maybe you could have, the stepdad and the biological father go out and have a beer together. Maybe they worked in the same plant. One worked on one side of the plant, the other one worked on the other. You know what I mean? And they had an amicable, sort of relationship, right? They go to the baseball games together for the kids or whatever. That, happens. And I think, and I would argue that it happened more in the past than it does now. But because now you have situations where women literally go out here and get with straight bums and have babies by straight bums. And the guy number two, whether he has children or not, he has to come in and take on the burden of the entire load. And, I'm focused, obviously, as a childless man, I'm more focused on the childless man getting involved with that. A man with children, hey, you can't complain too much, man. You got kids your damn self. But when you have all this shaming of childless men to try to go out here and get with single mothers, the main difference between, the past and today, and why you'll have guys that look at it differently, is because, like when you walked into the situation, you weren't taking on the entire load. Like even with Cap's father, who, eventually had himself a little girlfriend. She had three children, right? But the guy that he was fooling with, or excuse me, not the guy that he was fooling with, the father of her children, he died. And so those kids were getting Social Security. So he wasn't dealing with her and having to, pay for the entire load type of situation. She kept him company, he kept her company, but the whole situation, was not a situation where he, had to take on the burden of full responsibility. Not saying that he was going to, but even if he wanted to, he didn't have to. Where by today's standards, no. By today's standards, you got a lot of women out here who have children by complete bums. And if you go out here and you deal with a single mom, chances are much greater that you're going to have to take on the entire load. And that's has a great deal to do with why a lot of these guys are, angry and resentful, of that shit, myself included. Even though I don't deal with single mothers. It's just the audacity of it all. The audacity of the shaming and the demanding that some man need to come through and take on the burden of the full load of some unproductive man and raise his seed. I mean, the audacity of that. The other thing, and this is something that Cap pointed out, even that statement, well, I mean, you can't help who you love. It really demonstrates that a lot of the men of the boomers were marrying for love. They were not marrying for legacies and generational wealth. They were not thinking about where, their last name goes and the importance of that. They weren't thinking about that stuff. They were marrying for, love because the woman looked good. They liked the woman. They got along and all that stuff. But like I said, maybe they would be reacting like my generation reacts, because my generation has to deal with a lot more women where you walk into the situation trying to be with her, and if she has kids, you got to take on the entire load because the dude that she got with was such a bum. And that's another thing. If a woman, let's say you were a working man, you worked in, I don't know, General Motors, right? You work in the factory, and she's with, another guy, or she was married to a guy who also worked in the factory. He was gainfully employed. Maybe you knew him, maybe you didn't know him. But when you have a woman who has kids or was previously married, I'm not saying that the dynamics are, are any better. They're really not. But I'm saying you could at least respect the fact that, or when you look at the woman, you didn't look at her with the hoe eye. You didn't look at her like she's just some thought that some dude just ran through and busted all up in. But when you see a woman today in 2022, a young, black woman, and she's, has a baby or multiple babies, and the guy that she had the children with, it just isn't shit. I mean, just at all. He's just a complete and utter loser. When you see that it's virtually impossible for you to not put her in the whole box and not view her in a negative light. Now, some men, they might take it to the extreme and look at a woman, who is with a man who is gainfully employed and look at her in a negative light. I think that's dumb. If they do, I'm like, man, she was married, or man, at least the dude is a decent dude that you could contemplate why she lay down with him and have his children. You could at least wrap your head around it. You know what I mean? But when you go out here and you come across a woman that, gets on the what I feel I deserve train, and she gave, her womb, she gave immortality to a dude that, doesn't measure up to what you're doing, or isn't doing anything that you can actually respect. It's very, very, very difficult to have respect for that woman and put her on a pedestal and see her in the light that you would see her comparable to a woman who at least got with a man that you could actually respect. You can say, yeah, okay, that brother's doing his damn thing. I see what he's doing. Okay, I understand why you would be moved by that. You know what I mean? Like he was something that you could even aspire to, or you could even, respect. You say, okay, he ain't a complete bum, or he ain't, he's not. It's not like he's out here not doing anything. Or you could take it all the way up to the extreme of, damn, that dude is killing it. I'm trying to get it like how he's getting it. I see why you laid up with him. Shit, right? You could actually respect it, but when the bar is so low that the dude you can't even respect it, you start looking at the woman the same way. I keep trying to tell women that the men that you deal with are a reflection of you. And if you go out there and you make the stupid ass mistake of having baby by some dude that ain't shit, it's virtually impossible for you to get out of being permanently attached to that man and his status and his position and everything, because, you laid up with him. You thought that had value. And if the man that you're interested in has higher standards than that, you're going to have a hard time explaining, why you got with the other dude. Because now you have this permanent situation that is the child that, guy number two is going to, again, because of that whole situation of usually these guys are complete deadbeats. Now you have the entire situation where the dude has to come through and take care of the entire situation. That's what I wanted to say. The guy number two has to come through and take on the full burden of raising, the other guy's kids. And like I said, you're going to have a hard time trying to, wash the stench off of you that comes from his dustiness, or wash the dust cloud or whatever. You're going to have a hard time washing that off of you. You may never be able to wash that off of you, because you have a permanent situation and a permanent reminder that you were out here dealing with dust. And there's no reason or justification in the cosmic universe as to why his dusty ass genes should go forward and with the child that's bearing his last name. Y'all keep running around here acting like, women, they should be the decision makers. Y'all go out here and do whatever you want to do and think that, some other man is supposed to come through and take on the full responsibility of that burden. And, that's not the case. So unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, today's men got to put their foot, they got to put their foot down and let you all know this is not okay. We're not tolerating it anymore. The men that came before us, enough of them played the stepdaddy role. Like I said, that whole situation has run its course. it has truly run its course. And there's going to be a bunch of women. They're going to hate what I'm saying. They're going to be bitching up a storm and everything else. But that type of situation is nothing that I encourage any young man to get himself involved in. And I will continue to discourage it until these women start recognizing the type of men that they need to get with and value and appreciate and everything else. You know, we are way off track. So anyway, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. I just wanted to add that because, you know, when Kat was talking, when I was running, you know, my ideas, you know, of my video passion, you know, that whole aspect, I was like, you just made me realize something. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that whole aspect. I'm like, today's men have to take on the full load. Maybe that's why we have such a problem with it. Because we end up taking up on the full load. It's not like you got some other guy like, hey man, me and her, we don't get along, but you know, don't worry about it. Whatever my kids need, I got it covered. You know, and again, you go off and you enjoy being with her and you take care of your kids and he takes care of his kids. And obviously there would be areas of overlap and stuff. Hey, don't worry about it. I got it this time. You know, whatever. I'll take the kids to the amusement park, whatever. You can get my kids next time. Or yeah, I'm sure there were dynamics that went on like that. But when you got a dude that's not even in the picture and he's a straight bum, and then you got this guy that's not related to those children and he has to invest everything into those children that are not his just to keep the woman or be around the woman, like guys are saying, why am I even doing this? Why not just go out there and get a childless woman? You know, and this is something that, you know, I already know that a lot of these, you know, black single mothers, especially these olders, you know, they ain't telling the truth. They haven't been telling the truth. Which is why these women always, you know, they come online with all this delusion and they've already made mistakes and all that. This is why this happens. You know, but, you know, obviously, you know, the governor came off when it came to women in this whole situation. And so now you have, you know, the large segment of mainly childless men that are pushing back and speaking about the shit. Like I said, I already made the video about which men can't sit with us on this topic. So don't sit there and try to throw some low-hanging fruit at me and talk about, well, what about this man over here that's out here? No, again, you only get one trip around this motherfucker. You know, as Kat likes to say, all these guys that have been in the pool too long, they need to get the fuck out of the pool. There are not enough single childless sisters to go around, and you had your shot. You know, you already made babies, you already made single mothers and stuff. Get the fuck out of the pool. You know, give some of these young men a shot. You know, but again, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, like I said, having that conversation, that shit just made me realize part of the reason why they think the way that they. I'm like, yeah, men were gainfully employed back then. You know what I mean? You weren't dealing with straight bums. You weren't dealing with Ray and Pookie and whatnot. Not majority of the time, but now, no, it is majority of the time. You know what I mean? If I go out here and I come across some chick and she's got a kid with some dude, a lot of times you come to discover that the dude has nothing going on, and you're just like, why did you do this? Well, I was young and I was young, you know, all that crap. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.